Hey, what's up, everybody? Let me know if you can hear me. Once you do, we can get going. Yeah, sweet. All right, cool. All right, excellent. We will get going. You guys should see Discord right now. We're going to move through the SPX game plan. Let me get to our website real quick. For those that are new to Gamma Edge, we leverage options markets, the data within, how speculators are positioned to understand kind of general market positioning, specifically through SPX. Reason for that is because there's a significant amount of activity that's happening in the SPX, and options markets are inherently forward-looking in nature. So, via expirations and whatnot, we can understand how folks are positioned out in time. Starting with SPX-A, remember that's the cruise ship, a lot bigger than SPX-P, kind of longer term, slower moving capital you can think of is what positions in here. These are just your monthly, your quarterly expirations. We have about 15 million contracts, which is fairly normal. Thing to note here is really just want to be above 64.45, 64.50, but you can see a lot of green, call dominated structure, so that looks good there. Keep in mind, SPX-A kind of more of a swing trading duration as opposed to SPX-P and, 0DT we look at more on a, kind of intraday basis. Just going through other tools, you guys feel free to read through this in the Discord itself. True zeros, trending sideways to higher, good to see. Delta balance command, which again, that's just looking out at future expirations and how folks are positioned, and day over day looking to see if we have any shape changes or not in those future expirations. And just one side note, we split the analysis between above spot price and below spot price, right? Because those are two different planes if you're familiar with the 3D surface model. So yeah, just understanding kind of what folks out of the money above spot price and in the money, right? Out of the money calls, in the money puts above spot price, below spot price, in the money calls, out of the money puts. So understanding what that speculation looks like between out of the money call and put speculators. So in our opinion, that's what drives the markets, and it's just that sine waves of between call and put domination in the structure. So this is just one way of helping us understand kind of who's in control and who's in control out in time, and then the change and if that is changing. That's how you catch the turning points, right? Going next, SPX-P, again, 4.4 million contracts, so it's a good bit smaller, but still, this is where think of it as your speedboat. These are where kind of shorter term speculators are playing. Capital turns over much quicker here. This is your daily, your weekly, 0DT expirations, all that good stuff. So key thing to note here is, key thing to note here, transition zone 46.60. You can see significant activity at 40. Why did I say 40? 64.60, 64.50. Those are going to be kind of your key downside strikes. We're set to open right now at, we do SPX. Set to open right now at 64.46, so kind of right at that 64.50 level. So that's going to be important to understand. Then below 50, 64.25, that's the bottom of transition zone. Starts to get to where the puts really have a chance to take over there. So if we drop below that level, something certainly be cognizant of. I'm going to mark that on the chart real quick. I know you guys can't see this, but you will see it in a second. 64.25. All right, cool. So everything there for the moment looks good. Call dominated above the spot price. You see a lot of green. Good to see, right? Out of the money calls, in the money calls are what are dominating. Looking at GEX ratio, right? Sideways to higher. Good to see. GEX ratio is simply just the amount of call gamma relative to the amount of put gamma in the structure. So it's just a quick metric. Similar to like a put call ratio, but it's superior in our opinion because it incorporates gamma, which is time. So it favors more shorter term speculation into the calculation, which put call ratio does not. So just something to keep in mind there. Again, looking at delta balance looks fine. Getting to SPX 0DTE now. right? Why do we focus on SPX 0DT? Because, 50% or more of daily volume in the SPX options complex resides at the 0DT 0DT level, so it has a big influence on kind of your day-to-day price action. Key things to note, right, our key transition zone 64.50 down to 64.35. Above 64.50, we're more inclined to be bullish to the upside. Below 64.35, we are a bit more cautious on the market there. And then right in between, we just expect choppy price action. Things to note is to the upside above 64.50, have a little bit of a gamma glove here at 64.65, 64.70, so a little bit of turbulence in the structure as we move higher. But if we are to get above that, then we expect to work our way up to 64.80, then ultimately 6,500. So right, 64.50 up to 6,500 with a couple stops along the way, potentially. So, a couple different profit taking levels right there to the extent you guys want to incorporate that into your trading plan. And then right to the downside, 64.35 is going to be that key strike to the downside. And then 6,400, right, is kind of that key level to the downside we would likely see some reaction at. Again, COTMP, that is at 64.35 as well. So that's kind of a key monetization level for the bulls. So, if that level is kind of blown through, that is going to be key information there. Let's see, anything else? No, not really. Here, just marking, y'all can see the chart real quick. I just have some key levels identified, right? So 64.50, that's kind of my fulcrum for the day. Top of the drunken sailor range. So I'm going to be more bullish if we get above 64.50. Below 64.50, right, we have a couple key levels here. 64.35, which is 0DT level. 64.25, which is our SPX full complex level. That's the bottom of the transition zone, right? And 6,400 ultimately is kind of that key downside level right now. So simple if-thens right now, above 64.50, more inclined to go long, and then really, maybe down to 6,400 if we're able to break through kind of 64.35, 64.25. I'd be patient there though. Probably look for some, some type of, movement lower, a little bit of pullback, and then potentially a ramp lower, but right, that's why we also use our market trend model. That's why we also use our intraday volume analysis, just to understand if the trend is higher, sideways, or lower in terms of what is actually transacting once the bell rings today. So that's going to be critical to leverage as well, in addition to those key levels, right? So key levels, understanding. So Mr. Hedge Fund, so I wouldn't interpret this as a small range today. It's just a small transition zone relative to what we've seen previously. The range could still be massive on the day. Like, we have no idea, but kind of our key transition zone is just a lot smaller than what we've seen. The other thing to note too is, looking at once we get above the transition zone where that put open interest is at, because that can be fuel to propel us higher because of that fear component of when those contracts are closed. And so once we start to get, towards those elevated levels, those effects are not as prevalent. So that's where that intraday volume analysis and market trend model is going to be very important to see if we're getting that continued uplift. And then same thing to the downside, same thought process there to the downside. What else was I going to say? So just looking at NetStat. So this is, for those that aren't familiar with it, this is just a summarization of our 3D surface models. If you guys like to look at 3D surface models, you guys can go run those commands, but this is just a nice summary table as well for each of the 4 core Greeks, and looking at where those key sensitivity points in those structures are. So you think of 3D surface models where those massive peaks are at. So just kind of a quick snippet right there. Delta is favorable to the bulls right now, right? LM money put in call speculation. Charm is going to be weighing on us a little bit right now, but as those calls start to limit to 1, those start to decay. Hopefully Charm does pick up a little bit. What else? Not a ton else to say there. So if you guys have 0DT questions, SPX questions, let me know. If not, we'll just run through some single stocks real quick. So these are just the Mag 7 components, right? That's just kind of what I look at a day-to-day basis. And I look at some other ones, some other popular ones, Palantir, Hood, Coin, kind of whatever is popular. I just like to see kind of what is interacting around those key levels, potentially for a, some type of swing trade. So what I was looking at today was, what was the first one? So Tesla. Like Tesla here, if it can get above 330, and then to the downside, kind of key level of risk to the downside is 327.50. So easy points there. Then plus guys at 350. So if the market cooperates, is wanting to move higher overall, then that would be something that I would look at there. Yeah, if you guys have other single stocks you want to look at too, let me know. We'll just rifle through these real quick. Apple, Apple's had a really nice run recently. Maybe needs a little bit of cool down. Who knows? But 230 is going to be the key level to the upside there, or to the downside, sorry, there. Nvidia, just really consolidating at all-time highs. Above P-trans, which is good at 178. Microsoft, another one that's just been consolidating up near all-time highs, kind of in no man's land right now. It's below P-trans, so not as favorable relative to those that we've looked at so far today, because above P-trans, kind of where it starts to get in the call-dominated territory, where we would expect kind of further progression higher, but right now it's in the middle of that transition zone. Amazon, kind of no man's land right now. It's above P-trans, but kind of risk to reward is 1-to-1 up to plus GEX. Google, same thing, consolidating near all-time highs, below P-trans right now. Meta was another interesting one, although it looks like it just sold off in the pre-market. But yeah, I want to see that get above P-trans. Yeah, looking at Palantir, it's below its P-trans levels. Below N-trans actually, so that's not as favorable right now. Tommy, I'll get to your question in a minute. Let's just look at Palantir right here. Yeah, so on the wrong side of its transition zone. Really want to see it get back above 180. Look at MSTR too. Yeah, so looking at QQQs overall, really I'd want to see it be above 575. But yeah, if most components of the of the Qs, the big Mag 7 components are looking constructive, then I would think that'd be overall constructive for the Qs as well. What was the other one we were looking at? MSTR. Yeah, same thing with MSTR. It's like a little bit of a downtrend, just price action wise. Yeah, there's a little bit of work to do to get above those key levels. I'll just look it on the web app real quick. Bell just rang, so we'll wrap it up here in a second. Yeah, so we can see, there's a lot more, just simplistically, guys, a lot more red in the dashboard than green from what we've seen. So that tells me that, puts are a lot more prevalent in the structure, especially out of money puts, which is not, necessarily the best thing to see. So I'm not super interested in Palantir, this is MSTR strategy right now. So yeah. And then Tommy, I answered your question on Qs. Structure looks pretty good. If the underlying components are bullish in QQQ and they're moving higher, then that should push QQQ higher as well. So I know the bell just rang. That's it for now. We'll hop over to the Discord. We'll try and be back to YouTube live, sometime later today, maybe 20-30 minutes just to check in. So with that, we appreciate the time and we'll see you later. Thank you. One last thing real quick. I always forget to do this, but if you're new to Gamma Edge, you have no idea what we were just talking about. If you go to gammaedge.us, we have 20 different blogs we posted this year, free course, Gamma Edge Fast Pass, everything that new members to our community get up to speed on in terms of our methodology, our tools, all that good stuff, completely free for you. So if you are kind of confused by what we just talked about, this helps it make it less confusing for you. So feel free to give it a whirl. Yeah, that's all we got. So we'll talk to you later. Thank you.